cared about women's issues. We heard the black community when they said that they were siding with Trump. Well, high percentage of them. We heard you. We heard you. So that's why.
Hi guys, welcome to Neverwinter Nights 2. I have the GOG copy, so it's got all the expansions and everything with it. And also, I've noticed with these old RPGs that there's hardly any strategy guides online, but that's okay because I got the OG one right here. This is the original strategy guide, Neverwinter Nights 2. It's got everything in it, so I don't have to rely on the old game facts, just straight text. Strategy guides. If you guys find one somewhere, let me know. I like to look through them. Just let me get to... Here it is. Character creation aspect of it. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Mask of the Betrayer, Storm of Zahir, and the Mysteries of Westgate is a separate one by Luke Skull. He's a really big guy in Neverwinter Nights 1. He does a bunch of modules. I think he does some premium modules as well for them. So that'll be good. That'll do after the campaigns. So we'll start with the official campaign.
She's a woman who has a message on social because she has been speaking about that successfully in their party for a few months now. I think that issue.
Let's see. We'll create one. I have a number of mods running for this too. Basically graphic mods to update the graphics and a few other stuff. Mod list is right down below as usual, so don't worry about that. Let's see. I'm thinking Wood Elf, Ranger, or Druid. We'll go male. Recommended the human? No, don't pick the human. Unless you want to have a hard game.
That can be forgiven because you probably rushed in here so quickly that you actually beat the speed of light and went back in time. But I want to ask you this question because we do want to look at how we got to here, but we also want to look at this statement to the New York Times from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Just recently, she said, if you think that there is a consensus among the people who want Joe Biden to leave, that they will support Kamala, Vice President Harris, you would be...
Yeah, I'm going to pick a Ranger or a Druid here.
...alternative scenario that I feel does not set us up for enormous peril. You do a lot of people lining up behind Kamala Harris. President Biden said that that she has his full support. Bill and Hillary Clinton have come out and said...
Should we make him a midget?
...who likely will in the future as well. But there are other Democrats who are saying, whoa,
yes.
Here, we can't go this fast. We can't just anoint a successor. We've got to
go
through a process.
Let's savor the moment, John. I mean, this is fascinating, historical. It does feel like it's moving very fast. I remember on the night of the debate 3.5 weeks ago now, I said this will accelerate the calls to get him out, that he would be out by July 30th. There were a few days within there that I wavered and thought, I'm going to be wrong. And then on Friday, when it sounded like that it was ratcheting up, and when Nancy Pelosi decides that she wants to get something done, she'll do it gently at first, but she was about to ratchet up the pressure so much that it was inevitable that this was going to be the end. We just didn't know how it was going to come together. Something must have happened today in a conversation that Joe Biden had with Clyburn, because at this point, I don't know this for sure, this is my speculation, but Joe Biden, what we heard on Friday was that he was not inclined to endorse anyone, including Kamala Harris. So that changes today. So that changed over the last 48 hours. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you can go ahead and say that. And she might be right that there are a bunch of Democrats, perhaps from the moderate side of the party to the left-wing side of the party, who don't want her. But we're going to have to explain why. And I think, Harris Malcolm, she was making some excellent points about all of this. I do think that, I do want to say another thing, though, that I know that the Republicans are saying that all of these Democrats are now disenfranchised, the ones that voted for Biden in the primary. But if almost 80% of Democrats polled say they wanted another nominee in the last 4 weeks, then I don't think they feel disenfranchised. I think that they're about...
Let's read up on Druids here for a second.
The money has started to flow back in. Remember, it got frozen 2 weeks ago? All of a sudden this afternoon, John, that money starts to pour back in. So we're in for some really interesting civics lessons indeed, but also some great politicking.
Yeah, can you imagine? 6 months ago, if we ever thought that we were going to be at this point in the presidential election where you had one candidate who was nearly killed by an assassin's bullet and another one who was dropped out. I mean, if you had that on your bingo card...
I did it. It's funny because last January, when we were in the middle of the Republican primary, which turned out to be really nothing, right? But at the time, there were several candidates, and there was questions whether President Trump would be the nominee. I remember talking to one of my former colleagues who said, I'm actually beginning to think that it's much more likely that Trump is the Republican nominee and that Biden is not on the ticket. That was last January. So I feel like this has been building for a while, and I actually believe that Joe Biden's decline has been building for a while and accelerating in the last few months, and it just became untenable. Whoever pushed him to do that debate in June did 2 things. 1, exposed what the White House was trying to cover up, but 2, accelerated us to this situation where now Joe Biden will not be on the ticket.
Yeah. So Jill Stein has weighed in saying Joe Biden has been removed from power by the same anti-democratic forces that rigged the field for him in 2020 and skipped the primary to anoint him in 2024. Don't be fooled. The same DNC elites that put him in power will replace him with another tool for Wall Street and the war machine. So the Green Party
Okay.
RFK Jr. is going to...
No, I like Ranger a little better.
30 this afternoon. Speak to this idea that we went through a primary process that was extraordinarily restricted. You had Dean Phillips, who was
Got D8
Williamson as well, but they were never really a threat to Joe Biden. The entire party machine kept other potential challengers out, and now everybody is on this throw Biden off the ship movement.
And at the same time,
there is a democratic process that occurred here. That now that saying doesn't matter because of the circumstances of this.
And keep in mind, John, you used to be a White House correspondent, and I was there as the deputy or the press secretary, depending on what you were looking at.
I first knew you as a humble deputy.
In the last several months, if not the last 3 years, but just think of the last several months, how many times the White House press office told us that Joe Biden runs circles around them inside the White House. Think of how they trashed the reputations of 2 Wall Street Journal reporters who had 45 sources saying that Joe Biden's decline had accelerated and that he was having a hard time. And then you start to have the fact that people within the White House, are saying, we're getting campaign material that reads like you would get something from North Korean government, something like the propaganda that them saying everything was going to be okay. I just read that many White House staffers found out from X that Joe Biden was leaving. Now, I do think it's too impossible to keep news like that from leaking. They had to make a clean statement. And that's
Okay, we'll go with Ranger.
But I really do wonder about who is going to raise their hand. And
Chaotic good. It's good.
Here. Will the First Lady and Joe Biden say, we never should have tried to run?
Okay.
Is the senior staff that has surrounded Biden for so long going to raise their hand and apologize to the Democrats because they didn't have to be in this mess of their own making. They did this to themselves.
Saloon is famous, a good one.
The video now of President Obama putting his hand on Joe Biden's wrist and then leading him out of the George Clooney
Okay.
which I always saw as Obama sending a signal to the world that it's time for Joe to go. But remember how Karine Jean-Pierre said, all of these They were deep fakes. What does she call them? Cheap fake videos. Cheap fake videos to try to show that he's not capable of doing the job. What happened to that argument?
Well, I actually saw that as Obama being kind. And I don't think he was trying to necessarily signal anything, but I do think he was recognizing that this is bad. And unlike, well, I do know that a lot of his staff and the people who used to work for him, when they speak, people think, oh, David Axelrod is speaking specifically for Obama. I don't know. I mean, they probably have a little bit of that. But I also think that there's probably just a lot of sadness and shaking of the head on the Obama side of things right now. Remember in 2016, Obama thought it would not be a good idea for Biden to run and he endorsed Hillary. And I think there's a lot of that bitterness from Biden towards Obama.
And what about that moment that Adam Schiff came out last week and said it's time for Biden to go? Do you believe that he was acting as a proxy for Nancy Pelosi?
I do. That's the first thing I said on air. I said, I just remember she's close to Nancy Pelosi, and then I high-fived Alex Thompson, and I seriously thought the same thing. The one thing from Michael, I have a good friend, John, who says that Kamala Harris will get a huge financial leg up if she can figure out the way to get this cash in the Biden-Harris account. He says, but just to remember that Biden can't simply transfer the nomination to her. And that's what I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, is that there's going to be a fight, and there's going to be a race, and I am here for all of it, John. I can't wait to see how this actually turns out, because
that looks good.
3,937 Democratic delegates selected for the convention. They are essentially free agents, so the politicking in the next 4 weeks is going to be insane.
So speaking from a purely selfish standpoint, how many conventions have you gone through as a journalist? I know that I've gone through every one since 1996.
Militia.
Where it was a fait accompli, there was really nothing to report.
Base attack bonus +1.
Something is actually going to happen at this convention in August. And isn't that...
So -2 will save, eh?
Yes.
That's pretty good, Militia.
The first convention that I was ever a part of was in 2004 at Madison Square Garden. I had never been to New York. I was so intimidated. I didn't know how to pay for a taxi, so I walked from the Waldorf to Madison Square Garden back and forth every day because I was afraid to ask people. I was so shy. It was so stupid. Thinking back on that, and just like that convention was very organized, and I remember my husband had the Beaver Bush sign. He was so excited. So fast forward to the one we just had. You're watching this show, and I heard somebody say, "We are a long way from Kenny Gulfport," and that is certainly true. And just a week, 8 days ago, you had a failed assassination attempt on the former president, down the nominee, and the Republicans leave that convention with a pep in their step, with the wind at their back. They're so excited, and this race just got super interesting. Remember, Nikki Haley said, "I'm not running against Joe Biden. I'm running against Kamala Harris." Wow.
Could go up farmer.
It certainly did. Hey, Dana, as you point out, you've got a busy week ahead. Get some sleep tonight and get ready to rock and roll tomorrow morning at with Bill Hemmer. And the next month is going to be one of the most extraordinary months in politics that this nation has seen in 50 years. Really.
Well, and what's exciting is that we have such a great team of reporters, analysts, producers, crew, everybody. We're going to be all over this story, so don't miss a moment of it.
And we've got you, who's got such a complete all-around perspective on this. You're one of the smartest people in politics I know. Looking forward
I don't know. I'm getting a lot of help from the village.
Yeah, well, it does take a village. I'm tapped into the same village. Dina, thanks. We'll see you tomorrow. All right. Gina, congressional correspondent Chad Pergram joins us now. Chad, we want to talk about what the future holds and a lot of the response that's coming in, and where there appears to be a continued split in the Democratic Party. But walk us through, if you would, how we got to this point, who the major players were, and how they managed to leverage the president out of this race.
It was pretty clear to me the day after the debate, when I talked to some senior people on Capitol Hill, that they didn't think that President Biden had the juice to stay in the race. They thought that he had been poorly served by people close to him. That includes family and maybe staff as well. But it was pretty clear that there was going to be a slow roll here. And I thought that this kind of tidal wave was going to break across the shore say last Sunday morning, maybe last Monday, because you had the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer meeting with President Biden at Rehoboth. You had Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, going and meeting with him a week ago Thursday. And so that news about Schumer, that broke seconds before former President Trump was shot in Pennsylvania. So what's happened here is it kind of delayed this push. We've had a trickle of other people in the past 24 hours come out. Certainly Friday afternoon, a few yesterday, Joe Manchin this morning indicate that they thought it was time for President Biden to go. But some of that probably would have happened about a week ago. Did that cost them time? Now, here's the other interesting dynamic that's going on. We've just gotten a statement here from Catherine Clark. She's the Democratic whip in the House of Representatives. Obviously, thanks President Biden for his service, but she does not endorse someone. By the same token, we have Cori Bush, the Democrat from Missouri, who faces a competitive primary here in just a couple of weeks in St. Louis, and she says that she is for for Vice President Harris. She says it's all about winning. Now,
okay.
Going on here where you have the top leaders kind of staying away here, thanking the president for his service, but not jumping in. Nancy Pelosi, the former speaker, did the same thing a couple of moments ago, as well as Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. They want to read the temperature and see where people are. Now, the other thing that I allude to here that's going to start to happen, if it is in fact Harris, who are they going to pick for the vice president? I had mentioned last hour the possibility of maybe like Tim Ryan, the former congressman from Northeast Ohio, the Mahoning Valley. That's quintessential Trump country in there. We learned that in 2016. Someone had put to me, and this is something that appeared on our website the other day, the possibility of Sherrod Brown, the Democrat from Ohio, who flirted with running for president in 2020. Now, keep in mind that Sherrod Brown is on the ticket. He's up for re-election right now. You would probably cede that seat in Ohio there, but there's some Democrats who don't think there's any chance of winning the Senate back, but he would square up really well. In fact, somebody told me they thought he would better than Tim Ryan against J.D. Vance, especially speaking to those Trump voters. Sherrod Brown has always been able to kind of, come through with this working class Rust Belt persona that really seems to resonate in Ohio. Now, the other phenomenon of this is that Bob Casey, Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, a swing state, again, he's put out a statement here saying, I appreciate the service of the president, but did not endorse anybody. So how are these swing state and swing district Democrats going to come down? Are they going to endorse Harris? And this is where you've had already the NRSC, this is the national organization, John, devoted to electing Republicans in the Senate, where they're already saying, can Harris go into some of these places, and would they endorse them or have a scheduling difficulty? Somebody like Tammy Baldwin or Sherrod Brown or Bob Casey. They're already lighting that up. And the other thing here, we've gotten a statement here from House Speaker Mike Johnson, and you're going to continue to hear this from a lot of Republicans in the coming hours, is can President Biden continue to serve out the rest of his term? They're going to raise
Dodge for now
about Harris and try to undercut her, but they're also going to say, if he's not good enough to stand for re-election, what's going to happen then? And here's the other thing. Is there going to be some sort of an investigation? We have this huge hearing tomorrow morning with Kimberly Cheeto, the Secret Service Director, but I've been getting a couple of whispers here. They're saying we're going to have to look in to understand who knew what, who understood whether or not the president had the competency to continue to serve. Were there medical staff? Remember, there's already some investigation into that from some of the House Republicans. They're going to want to hear, they're going to make this a campaign issue. You have Bernie Moreno, I keep talking about Ohio. Bernie Moreno is the Republican nominee for Senate against Sherrod Brown. He showed up a week ago Thursday outside Sherrod Brown's office here on Capitol Hill, Hart Senate office building, and he said, Sherrod Brown in 2021, 2022 had been to the White House X number of times. What did he see in the president's decline? So already they're going to weaponize this against the Democrats with those vulnerable Democrats right away. The Republicans are really itching for this, frankly.
Yeah, there's going to be so much to talk about the days and weeks ahead. Chad Pergam for us. Chad, thanks. Let's bring in our chief political anchor and special report. Brett Barron's got a special edition of his program tonight with Martha between 5 and 7 o'clock. I want to read a couple of things to you. First of all, color from our Brooke Simon, Fox Digital reporter, who says a source very familiar tells Fox Digital that as of last night, the message from President Biden and those around him was, quote, all systems go and campaign full speed ahead. Then at around 1:45 p.m., he notified senior team members that he had changed his mind. Let's get to what might have changed his mind, Brett, but also this statement from Barack and Michelle Obama which does not endorse Kamala Harris. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton have come out to endorse her. President Biden endorsed her. But here's what the Obamas say. We will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead, but I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges. Ouch. Yeah. This is going to be fascinating. I think that what we see over the next couple of days as far as Democrats and whether they coalesce around Kamala Harris is going to be really telling for the party. Already you're seeing some significant endorsements in congressional backgrounds. Others we just saw Senator Tammy Baldwin in a tough race in Wisconsin. She endorsed Kamala Harris. But notably, there are some Bill and Hillary Clinton have, and you want to see this yes, no, checking the box, whether there's going to be this big primary or not.
Almost got it.
The enormity of this action today, the fact that the President of the United States, who just yesterday, all his people were out on TV saying he was 100% in, this is just wrong, that people are coming after him. There was a huge push. Jonathan Martin and others have reported that Team Biden in Delaware were making calls to delegates to make sure that they were on the line with Biden. They were still sticking with Biden one by one. And then this term. It has been 56 years since the President of the United States chose not to run for re-election. When Lyndon Baines Johnson stepped down and did not run for re-election. Now Joe Biden is doing the same thing. And as mentioned before, I think you're going to see the former president really hit on
what's going on.
Able to serve the final 5 months. You're seeing Republicans say that as well, as the Democrats try to figure out how this process is going to look. What looks like is real is that Chicago is going to be something that we haven't seen probably since 1968. And they say it's not going to be chaotic, John, but it's certainly out that way.
Why is it fidgety, man? That's fucked up. I can't play like that.
General Grant said that people start climbing up it.
Mods must be doing something.
A disaster. Very dynamic inside the convention hall. I remember an old colleague of mine, Dan Rather, getting hauled away and famously saying, "Don't put your hands on me. Don't put your hands on me unless you're going to arrest me." So it got very dynamic in there. But the historic parallels are really quite something here. You've got, first of all, the city. You've also got the fact that the Democratic nominee has dropped out. It's going to be some sort of open convention. And then you've got all of these protesters that are planning on turning out at the Democratic convention. Protesters who never showed up at the RNC, but they're targeting the DNC. I mean, this could be chaotic and really up in the air depending on who they choose. You know, if it is Kamala Harris, remember the other thing about the vice president.